And this is usually measured on neuroticism. Somebody here is quick to anger. They have a pronounced hatred of other human beings and sometimes of society in general. They personally attack other people.
So if you have ever known someone that's like a self-described misanthrope, it might just be that they're emotionally mature. Again, because they have this tendency to like point the finger at everyone else. It's like, it's literally just every other human in the world is bad. I'm perfect and everyone else is bad. When it's really that person's just kind of an asshole and kind of needs to change a little bit, unfortunately. I'll throw myself under the bus. I was definitely like, when I was younger, I described myself. I remember in college, all my friends, I was like, I'm a misanthrope. You know, when I learned about that when I was younger, I'm like, I'm definitely one of those things. And then I got older and I'm like, no, I'm actually just really dysfunctional. And because of that, I blow up relationships a lot and I should work on that. So
disagree with them. So they have an inability or unwillingness to separate a person from an opinion. If somebody disagrees with them, that person is bad, foolish, or the other person is trying to maintain.
Let's see. Flame says, I lived a traumatizing life. Some of the stuff I need to talk about is very hard for me, but I'm taking my own steps forward and learning lots thanks to you, buddy. That's very nice of you to say. I'm all embarrassed now. Yeah, man. It's been the same with me, dude, honestly. It's funny now. I mean, maybe I don't like look the most wholesome. I'm kind of a big buff, scary dude sometimes, but yeah, I mean, I feel like my mental health and my relationship with myself and my ability to be like kind and compassionate for others has come a long way, dude. I was a angry asshole when I was young, and it came from growing up around a lot of trauma myself and having a lot of trauma to do or work on myself to do also. So, yeah. Well, it's been awesome having you here, Flame, and you're always welcome, man. And good kind of hanging out with you on Sunday, man. That was really fun. I definitely need to get better at Phasma though. You and Rada definitely carried me hardcore.
Some sort of agenda. So we see kind of a low trust really element here as well. That would be measured on agreeableness. Sign number 7 is deception, and pathological lying would be an extreme version of this. Now, this is measured to some degree.
So I forget, Flame, do you see a therapist regularly at all, or I forget if we've talked about it or not. Also, how are things with the wifey? Are everybody, kids and wifey, doing good right now? We're in that weird like in-between zone where it's like not Halloween anymore, but like all the other holidays are sneaking up on us. So there's like that lull. And then pretty soon it's going to be like everyone's out of town for Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, and just family stuff is all over the place. So I don't know about you, but hopefully it's restful.
On agreeableness, there's a facet called...
Oh, you didn't say before. Gotcha.
Straightforwardness, but there's not a lot of overlap there. Deception is really separate of the 5-factor model.
I'm glad things are going good, man. Yeah, but I mean, I get you. You know, I've been in and out of therapy for like literally a decade now. And when you've been through stuff, it's really hard to open up. I really just feel like just recently I feel like, I mean, I've picked up things from doing therapy over the years for sure, but it was really hard for me to really open up about stuff that was going on for years, man. I really don't even think I have a therapist that I see now, and man, she was with me through some rough times lately and just really earned my trust. And I think she's the first therapist that I actually really open up to. And because of that, I feel like I've made a lot of progress really quickly. So I get it, especially as a guy, it can be really hard to open up. Only call the crisis line before, I think is what I said. Gotcha. Yeah, I've been there, man. I've called. I'm surprised they don't have my number saved on the crisis line, because I've definitely been there more than once, man. So you're not alone. How are you? Everyone is doing good. Well, that's good. I hope you and your wifey are getting along well. I hope you and the kids are getting along well. How old are your kids anyway, if you don't mind me asking? I know we're like the same age, which is mind-boggling. I'm still jealous that I'm like, damn, when am I gonna get to the point in my life where I'm gonna like, you know, find my person and settle down and have a little family? Still a goal for me, but haven't gotten there yet. So super jealous.
For the most part. So related to deception, we also see behaviors like criminality, so involving oneself in criminal acts, or manipulation. Sometimes people lie for money. That's emotionally...
10 and 8. Whew, jeez, man. I feel like I want to say you had kids young, but like really, if you're my age, then that's not actually that young. That's actually like used to be normal. It's just now everyone doesn't have kids until they're like super old. I'm jealous, man. That's cool.
Mature, but lying to impress others is also strongly tied to emotional immaturity. This, of course, overlaps with narcissism, and I'll talk about that.
That's funny. Your kids are probably the same age as Woodster's kids. He was hanging out with us on Sunday. He didn't play any games, but he was hanging out in voice chat. He's our age, too. I've known Woodster since I was like 5 years old. And he had kids also like younger. He had kids in his like early 20s. So, that's a rough life sometimes, but I still think it's cool to be like getting older and have a family and stuff like that. I think it's allowed me to be wild and crazy a little bit, not having that, but there's definitely times where I'm like, man, I wish I would have had something more permanent earlier in my life. Me and my best friend eventually made to push for a real relationship. Really? That's cool. So you got in a relationship with your best... Wow, that's crazy. You like never hear about that happening. That's cool. So you and your wifey have been together for 13 years, huh? That's crazy. Best friend. How'd you guys meet?
In a moment. Sign number 8 is being unable to experience and understand deep feelings and needs. This is kind of similar to a lack of empathy, but here I'm really talking more about specifically being shallow.
I'm so fascinated. And whenever I meet people in like healthy, happy relationships, I'm always like, we need to capture you and analyze you and study you for science. It's like so hard, man. As a single guy myself again now, it's like, oh man, it's so intimidating. Like trying to go out there and find someone to have like a healthy thing with. I'm just always so jealous of people that are like, oh yeah, I just found my person like super early in life and we're together and we're happy. And Jesus Christ, that's a rare thing these days, man. I'm super jealous.
This is somewhat measured on the openness to experience trait. Sign number 9 is difficulty setting boundaries. So looking at dependence here, for example. This is when somebody's unable to end or limit relationships that are unhealthy or damaging. Now, I'm not talking about situations where somebody's trapped financially or logistically, like some people are trapped in a marriage with somebody else who's destructive. But rather, this is talking about when people have a clear way out of the destructive relationship and they fail to take action due to feelings of dependence. Sign number 10 is the individual has no room for growth. So they figured everything out. They know everything. They have every ability.
Yo, I feel like that's like one of the quintessential times too. Like if you know someone that's just like super stubborn and also they just feel like they know everything, even though that person's just like super defensive, super like dysfunctional and a pain in the butt to deal with, but they're just super like stuck in their ways of like, no, I know. Ugh, man. I feel like I've got parents like that. Yeah, it can be frustrating sometimes.
And skill. In a sense, this is like being cynical. Now, a person like this can still appreciate the fact that new information could come their way, that they could use to benefit themselves. But in terms of learning something like a new ability, learning something about society or life or the meaning of life or any of that, this individual has it all figured out. So again, there's really no room for personal development, only the addition of information that can be helpful to them. So those are the 10 signs. What about the other question? Is emotional immaturity a mental disorder? Well, it really depends on where you look. In the ICD, which is one classification manual for disorders, we see that there's a category called other specific personality disorders, and one of those types is the immature type. Not
I love Dr. Grande,
immature,
but
I think they're pretty similar.
He's like kind of monotone sometimes, and sometimes it's like really
the
technical.
Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, which only looks at mental disorders, We see here there's no such thing as emotional immaturity personality disorder. Clearly, many of the characteristics of emotional immaturity align with certain features of narcissistic, antisocial, borderline, and histrionic personality disorders. These
we'll probably leave the video out there because he kind of just talks about the DSM, and we don't need to get that technical. But I do like what he just mentioned there, though, is that like a lot of the signs of emotional immaturity can look like a lot of actual legit personality disorders, which makes it really hard to tell them apart. So, for example, someone who's got narcissism, by definition, they're emotionally immature because they like lack empathy for other people. They tend to have emotional outbursts, fears of vulnerability, need for validation. A lot of that stuff kind of looks like narcissism if you didn't know what's kind of going on under the hood. So it's kind of interesting that emotional immaturity is really a term coined by researchers, in particular Lindsay Gibson is a big pioneer in the field talking about emotional immaturity. She's been around for quite a while. This book is one of my recommended books for everybody. And Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents, How to Heal from Distant, Rejecting, or Self-Involved Parents. I read this book many years ago, and it was like, oh my God, so many things in my life make sense. So, but yeah, it's not technically an official, like, mental health disorder or anything like that. It's not in the Bible of mental diagnosis, mental disorders, the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. I can't speak today. But yeah, if you've ever had a friend, family member, or loved one with it, you will know that it is a very real thing. But it's funny because it can look stuff like narcissism or borderline or whatever, and you can be like, wait, is this person like a narcissist? Or it's like is my dad a narcissist? Or it's like, no, they're probably just really immature and self-centered and defensive, and they're stubborn ass. So, but yeah, that's kind of generally the signs of emotional immaturity. Again, just to take the cliff notes for it, we'll talk about how to deal with emotional immaturity next. The specific video is how to deal with like a partner that's emotionally immature, but I think it's pretty much the same thing if you're dealing with like a parent. There's a therapist that I really love online by the name of Patrick T. Han. He deals a lot with codependency, but he also deals a lot with growing out of the trauma associated from growing up with an emotionally immature parent. So I love Patrick T. Han. If you have grown up and you think that your parents might have been highly dysfunctional or emotionally immature in particular, I would really say drop him a follow and look at his stuff, because man, he is like water for a parched soul sometimes. It's just, I love his stuff. I can't say enough good things about him. So yeah, so let's watch this video and then give my book recommendations, because I love giving people homework to do to continue to work on their mental health stuff when you're not hanging out with me. And so yeah, how do we deal with this problem here, class?
It's become clear that your partner is emotionally immature. And if it's not quite clear, go back to my last talk on the signs that your partner is emotionally immature, and then come back and watch this one about what to do about it. If you are in a relationship with someone that is emotionally immature, it can be incredibly frustrating. It can be confusing. It can be overwhelming.
True story.
You can feel stuck or trapped or lonely or isolated because they don't have the emotional capacity.
Yo, Moon Girl 1999. We partying like it's 1999. Thank you so much for the follow. Welcome in. How's your night going? We are talking about emotional immaturity. So if you have a family member, parent, friend, loved one, partner, and they're kind of a stubborn ass, the technical term for that might be emotional immaturity. It's good stuff. We just talked about some of the key traits of emotional immaturity. I've got a cute little, I always make like Instagram posts summarizing all the stuff we talk about on stream and put on my Instagram. So what's up? How are you doing tonight? So yeah, if you ever miss anything, you can always either check out the replay or you can always check out my Instagram where I summarize all the stuff. I have a whole bunch of stuff on my Instagram though. So we talked about how to deal with emotional immaturity. Oh boy, dealing with issues like that right now. Oh yeah? Oh, juicy. Tell us about it. Do you have some wonderful tea to spill? Is it like a family member or someone you're dating or just a friend? Because friends can be emotionally immature. Those are like, oof. I don't know why anyone would want to keep a friend that's emotionally immature, but God knows it happens sometimes. Your boyfriend. What's the story with that? Is he like really... So if he does something that hurts your feelings, if you come to him and try to talk to him about it, does he get really defensive or call you too sensitive or just get really angry and blow up at you? That kind of stuff. Oof, yeah, I've been there before. As a guy who's been on the other side of an emotionally immature partner, whew, it's rough. So this is good then. If you're dealing with it, we're just about to start the video on what to do about it. So, but yes, by all means, tell me more about it while we watch what you can do about it.
To talk about things, to work things out, to address issues, to work on things in the relationship, to be there for you, to consider your needs. Maybe even it's that you often feel confused and frustrated because you don't know what their needs are and you're trying to meet them, but they don't have the emotional maturity to be able to express them. And so you always feel like you're wondering and guessing. It's making you feel anxious. Maybe even you've lost a lot of yourself in this relationship because you are taking all the responsibility for everything because they don't seem to be able to take the responsibility for anything.
Again, goes back to our difficulty taking responsibility and accountability thing we talked about. I like what she mentioned though. There's always this thing that I bring people back to. I call them the 3 pillars of healthy relationships: communication, needs, and boundaries. And people who are emotionally immature are generally poor at all those things. They're poor at respecting people's boundaries, communicating their own needs and respecting your needs, and then obviously communicating about those things. So yeah, it can be tough. Let's see. Moon Girl says, oh yeah, right now it's about our libido difference in his drinking. Yeah, well, and it's, you know, it's pretty normal for partners to not have exactly the same libido, right? Because no one's going to be interested in being intimate exactly the same number of times, right? The drinking thing, you know, if it's love the Pokemon lo-fi, I know, right? Dude, that's like, all right, hold on, y'all. I'm going to nerd out for a little bit. This is like my favorite thing to do before stream is just hop on and look for like cool, different lo-fi playlists. I'm like, yes, we're doing this one. Sometimes I'll be like Final Fantasy. Then today it's like more Pokemon stuff. So drinks and drives. Oh, Jesus. Drinks and drives every day. And so if you think that he might be emotionally immature, I'm guessing you've probably like tried to bring up your concerns or you know, your feelings about the libido difference and how that's being handled, or about his drinking. How does that usually go? When I try to talk about it, he just tells me it's fine and gets angry if I push the issue. Yeah, sounds like some emotional immaturity going on. Out of curiosity, Moon Girl, do you have any idea what your guys' attachment styles are? Because we had just talked about it. I was telling everybody a second ago. Sometimes it's hard because emotional immaturity can be a part of a lot of different things. You know, at the worst case scenario, and I'm not claiming this on your boyfriend and all or at all, but you know, emotional immaturity is a common feature of like a narcissist. Is that saying that every emotionally immature person is a narcissist? No. So could just be that your boyfriend is really avoidant. If his attachment style is avoidant or even fearful avoidant, they also often will be defensive and have a hard time navigating conflict. So a lot of avoidants are emotionally immature, but not all emotionally immature people are avoidantly attached individuals, if that makes sense. Not sure, honestly. Ooh, this is fun. Hold on. I'm going to give you a homework assignment here. I love asking people about attachments. I'm a relationship coach, so this is the kind of stuff that I talk about with people. Attachment style quiz. Where's the? There we go. I love giving people this one. If you're interested, so more than happy to talk to you about emotional immaturity, but if you're interested, take this quiz here. Get him to take it too. Just be like, hey, you should just take this fun quiz. It's like a fortune cookie. It's not like a fortune cookie. Gaslighting definitely happens too. Like he'll tell me he didn't say something I just heard him say. Yeah. And so kind of going back through our list of the signs of emotional immaturity, we've talked about a lot of times people who are really emotionally immature, like you said, you know, he's kind of invalidating your feelings. He tends to get defensive. Even some of the gaslighting generally comes from this place of having a difficulty taking responsibility, right? Or just healthily navigating conflict. A lot of times under the surface of that, there's this like core shame or insecurity that these people struggle with. And so a lot of times, if we're not really, really, really careful about the way we engage in talking to people when we're in conflict with them, especially if they're emotionally immature, it's going to trigger a lot of those deep-rooted feelings of shame or insecurity and make them do stuff like be defensive, get angry, gaslight, stonewall. Does he stonewall at all? Lord knows I've been in relationships where they stonewall. Oh God, it's terrible. He'll tell me he didn't say something, just said, pretty sure I might have a trauma bond. Oh, that sucks. I've been there. Let me tell you, breaking up with someone when you're trauma bonded to them is not fun. It's like withdrawing from drugs. Every day sucks for a good couple of months. He stonewalls. Yeah. Sounds like a very not healthy relationship. So what are your feelings about this guy? Do you think he's the one? Do you want to stay with them and work things out? And do you think if you did, he'd be able to do it? Or are you feeling pretty like done? Don't think it is, and yet I still love him very much. You don't think it is what? That he's the one, quote unquote? Is that what it said? Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, how does conversation usually go when you bring things up? It's gotten oh. Yeah, that's no bueno. I mean, if you guys are at the point where you're having like physical altercations, there's physical violence going on. For me, that's a hard stop. And I'm sorry to hear that. Have you guys tried to, how long have you guys been going out? Is this like a pretty long-term thing? Or is this fairly recent?
So, what can you do? Well, in this talk, we are going to look at several different ways that you can approach and address things with your partner that are likely going to get the ball rolling and get you both into a better place and get more.
So you've been with this guy for quite a while. In most of these circumstances, especially if you're talking about a trauma bond, I'm guessing things started out fairly smoothly. You know, he showed up, he was charming, he was respectful, he was responsive to your needs, and then somewhere along the line something just kind of changed? Or was it kind of always really difficult right from the start?
Of the healthy communication going. Of course, you cannot control them, but how you...
Yeah, and you know, I tell everyone, and Lord knows I've experienced this in relationships. You know, I'm an older guy, so I've been in plenty of relationships at this point. I tell everyone can hide who. Well, I won't say that because that sounds really negative. Everyone puts their best foot forward the first 90 days of a relationship. So the first 3 or 4 months of relationship, usually the honeymoon phase. You know, you've got the high of a new relationship going on. They're trying to impress you. You're trying to impress them. And so because of that, that's usually where you get that like nice high honeymoon and it's all the fireworks and everything. Now the problem is with emotionally immature people. Liamja35, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome in, my friend. How's your night going? We are talking about emotional immaturity. So if you've got someone in your family that you know is, or a family friend, or even someone you're dating that's kind of a stubborn ass, talking to them makes you feel like you're talking to a brick wall. Lord knows we've all been there. Moon Girl's over here talking about her experience with it. That person's probably emotionally immature. It's not always bad. That's what makes it difficult to leave. Still sweet moments. Yeah. Moon Girl, I know exactly where you're coming from. I've been in your shoes and the exact same thing where you're like, sometimes this person's so sweet. Sometimes they tell me they want to be with me for the rest of my life. I think this is my person. And then the yelling starts. And then they start stonewalling. And then, you know, in your case, they're physical. You know, physical stuff starts, right? And you just start thinking, if I could just get back to the sweet version of this person that I fell in love with, you know, everything would be great. But the reality is that's not the case. So can I just ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at with wanting to work things out with this guy versus where you're at with what do you want to leave? So on a scale of 1 to 10, how badly do you want to make things work with this guy versus how badly do you want to leave, but maybe you feel kind of trapped because, again, trauma bonds will do that to you. So you're pretty split down the middle, right? So you're pretty torn. Okay. And so sounds like you're kind of at the point where you're torn and not sure what to do, but you're not happy the way things are. Am I hearing you right? And if you could work things out with this guy, you want to, but if they're not going to change, you want to figure that out so you can get the hell out, right? Man, this is right up my alley. This is I'm going to be honest with you. I was in a trauma-bonded, dysfunctional relationship with an emotionally immature person not too long ago. So, totally get it. Do feel trapped a little bit. Sometimes I just feel disconnected looking around and wondering what I'm doing here. Yeah, that sucks. That sounds really difficult. It almost sounds like there's a part of that it's really isolating. Just like, why am I stuck in this thing that's crappy? How old are you, if you don't mind me asking? We're going full on relationship advice mode, guys. That's what we're here for. So if you guys are hanging out in the chat, lurking, thank you for the lurk. Thank you for stopping in. This is a place to heal. I'm a relationship coach, self-development coach. This is the kind of stuff I talk about. So if you're interested in mental health, feel free to hang around. And also, if you've got your own questions about stuff going on in your life, this is what I eat, sleep, and breathe. So feel free to drop some questions in the chat. Yeah, he moved me out to a different town. I'm 24, he's 26. Yeah. Isolation is definitely something I feel a lot. Yeah, and that can be really hard when you move to be someone, especially if it's in a completely new place. If it's a small town or even if it's just a different town and you try to make things work with him and it turns out that it's a toxic and dysfunctional relationship, it can be really hard because then not only are you leaving the relationship, but you almost have to start your life over, right? Because now you got to move back out of that town to somewhere different. And if you're younger, small town, yeah. Have you guys, if you guys have been together through 3 years, have you brought up like couples therapy with him at all, or?
you address things and show up and present an issue, the way that you do that is going to make an impact on how they respond to it and their openness or willingness.
Ooh, that's pretty damning. Whew. One of those. Yeah, that's my brother. So I'm worked in the mental health field for like 5 years. I was in grad school to be a marriage and family therapist. I'm actually going back to finish up my degree here in the fall, but I currently just do a coaching thing. I'm a coaching and relationship coach, or relationship and self-development coach. So he just has to drink a beer. He sounds